The Torah tells us that amongst the many things that we are commanded to eat on the night of the Seder, we are obligated to consume marror, bitter herbs. And as we read in the Haggadah, Rabbi Gamliel explains the reason we're obligated to consume bitter herbs is to remember the bitterness of our servitude in Egypt. Vayimaru es chayehem ba'avoda kasha. The Egyptians embittered our lives with difficult work. And so to remember the difficulty, the sadness, the bitterness of our circumstances, we go ahead and we eat marror, we eat bitter herbs. And the Gemara explains that the bitter herbs of choice was lettuce. But then the Gemara says something amazing. Actually, the Mishnah explains that you would take your lettuce, the Mishnah says, and you would dip it into charoses, into this mixture called charoses. We're familiar with charoses, a mixture of ground up different spices and apples and nuts and wine, whole variety of that make almost like a paste-like charoses mixture. You would dip the marror into the charoses, and the Gemara explains, why do you dip the marror into the charoses? The Gemara gives a two-word answer, mishum kappa. Kappa literally means poison. Poison. Apparently, there was something poisonous. And when we speak about poisonous, it doesn't have to be the kind of stuff that kills you, but something detrimental in the lettuce of Talmudic times. And it was dangerous. So if you were to consume it, it could, chas v'shalom, God forbid, put you b'makom sakana. In order to neutralize the sakana, in order to neutralize the danger, the quote-unquote poison of the lettuce, you would dip it into the charoses, and the lettuce is good to go, poses no danger. You could use it to fulfill the mitzvah. I was thinking when seeing the statement of the Gemara that perhaps Chazal are coming to teach us something incredibly profound. That sometimes marror can be poisonous. What do I mean by this? You know, we all have our periods of marror. We all have our periods of difficulty. We all have our moments of overwhelming challenge and adversity. But my obligation in those moments is not to allow the merirus, not to allow the bitterness to color the entirety of my circumstances. You ever have a day where you're just having a lot of difficulty, a lot of challenge, and it's amazing to see how one day of challenge could color an entire lifetime. So somebody were to stop you on the street after your day of marror and say, "No, how's life?" Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. You're not going to believe what happened. And I could rattle off a litany of things that have gone wrong. There's a poison in marror. Marror has the ability to poison your life outlook. Difficulty, adversity, suffering has the ability to poison your well of positivity. The greatest challenge in life is not to allow adversity to color everything. And isn't this applicable to us today? We've been living through a year of a pandemic. And for some of us, the pandemic has felt like it's gone on for years, for decades. That my whole life has been a pandemic. It's a year. Granted, it's been a year of difficulty and adversity for many, in many different ways. But we can't allow it to color the totality of our existence. And the pandemic is just one example. So many times in life, we run into marror circumstances. And marror could be poisonous. Marror could poison your outlook. Marror could poison your disposition. Adversity and difficulty could poison your ability to be optimistic, to be hopeful, to be filled with joy. And so the Gemara says something amazing. We take marror on Pesach night because we have an obligation to remember the difficulty of shibud, the difficulty of enslavement, the bitterness of our circumstances. But what do? Before we consume marror, I dip it into charoses. I take out the poison. So I'm going to consume it. I'm going to remember that which was bitter. But I'm not going to allow this marror to overtake me. I'm not going to allow the marror to poison my well of optimism. I'm not going to allow the marror to poison my life outlook or disposition. I have an obligation to remember what was. But I can't allow that bitterness to overtake everything. And so too in our own lives. As I mentioned before, we all have our moments of marror. And for some of us, the moments are more than just moments. For some of us, the moments turn into days, turn into weeks, into months, and even into years. But no matter how long your marror goes on for, don't let it poison you. Don't let it color your outlook or disposition. Find the ability to neutralize the poison and maintain a disposition of positivity, optimism, and hope. Wishing everyone a wonderful day.